Peace, family. How you doing? It's Mr. R2 here with Consistency is Currency. It's episode 2 podcast. I'm coming at you live, also on Facebook. So shout out to my Facebook family. This is, again, episode 2. So let's clap it up, episode 2. I'm happy for myself. Happy to keep it current. Happy to keep it consistent. But you made it to a whole nother week. You made it to a whole nother Monday. I pray that your weekend has been blessed. And I pray that the starting of your week will be even greater than the week you had yesterday. So if you're watching right now, just go ahead and put in the comment section wherever you're viewing from. If you're in the state of Texas, go ahead and drop it. If not, go ahead and put that city and state where you're viewing from. But again, so we're going to talk a little bit about something today, and I'm going to read a small excerpt, and then we're going to go into the discussion. So today we're talking about becoming an intentional learner. So I'm going to read into this, tap into this, and if there's something that clicks inside of you, just go ahead and drop that in the comment section. So again, we're going to read it. It's how do you get better at what you do? How do you improve your relationships? How do you gain more depth and wisdom as a person? How do you gain insight? How do you overcome obstacles? How do you gain hard work? How do you work longer? Wait for things to get better. If you focus on goals, you may hit goals, but that doesn't mean it guarantees growth. If you focus on the growth, you will hit growth, but that doesn't always guarantees that you will hit your goals. Growth also taps into if you have dreams, goals, and aspirations, you need to grow to achieve them. But if you're like most people, you have one or more mistakes, basically, in your beliefs, creating gaps that keep you from growing and reaching your potential. Take a look at the following 8 misconceptions about growth, and it will take you into holding you back from being intentional as you need to be. So I'm gonna read the first one, and then as the days of the weeks go on, we're gonna go and we're gonna hit all 8 of the misconceptions about growth. So the first one is the assumption gap. I assume that I will automatically grow. And we already know that doesn't always happen. Assuming that you're automatically going to grow. Because when you get into the space of growth, you have to understand there's a place that you have to be in. And when you're in that place and how you're going to grow, you have to really begin to write down what does growth look like for you? Because growth for me is not going to look like growth for you. And growth for you doesn't always have to look like growth for somebody else. Have you ever been around someone that tell you, okay, this is how you're going to grow this? That doesn't necessarily mean that's how you're going to do it. Because your avatar is different from mine. And what does that mean to you? That means you have to understand that your growth and your healing comes in your time. Your growth and your healing comes in your moment. As you understand how you want to grow, then you will be able to see what does growth look like for you. If your growth is getting up and walking in the morning, that is your growth performance. Those are the things that you do. If your growth is actually sitting down and writing in your journal, that's what your growth looks like. If your growth is listening to music, that's what your growth looks like. Especially for those that are in the sports, if your growth looks like shooting jumpers every Saturday to prepare yourself for the rest of the week or to prepare yourself before you go to practice, then that's what your growth looks like. Figure out your growth pattern. Figure out your growth spurts. And don't assume the way you grow is how somebody else is going to grow. Sometimes we need to take a step back and just be there for people who need you to be there for them. Doesn't always mean you have to go and give them that type of advice. Sometimes they just may want you to listen. And that may be the best measures that's going to allow them to grow, by having someone like you to be there to listen to them. But we have to be consistent with it as well. And the one thing that I used to tell my son, the one thing I don't want you to be consistent at is being inconsistent. And how many of us has found ourselves in that particular position at being consistent at being inconsistent? That's a place in a position that you don't want to be in. But how do you change being consistent at being inconsistent? Is looking at it from a realistic point of view. Are you really consistent in your goal setting? Are you really consistent in the things that you want? Are you working on those things that you really want to actually achieve? If not, take a step back and sit down and write that out, and then figure out, where are my inconsistencies? Where does it lie? Does it lie in my reading? Does it lie in my writing? Does it lie in what time I get up in the morning? Does it lie in how I actually execute certain things? But the best thing that you can ever do is to identify it. And after you identify those inconsistencies, you have the ultimate opportunity to change it. And after you change those inconsistencies, I guarantee you that you will begin to grow. So let's lay our inconsistencies to the side. Let's identify those inconsistencies, and let's begin to take the first steps in changing those things that we know that we can change, which is how we respond, how we react, and how we grow. Understand that. And y'all be blessed. And remember, consistency can definitely create currency. But don't be so consistent at being inconsistent. Peace.